They shouldn't have ever had to make those sacrifices. They shouldn't have had to put their safety at risk. They shouldn't have had to work for below standard wages. Now is the time for park workers to unionize. Now is the time for us to come together, to reach out to each other and support each other.
There have been a lot of, I'll say, longer standing systemic issues within the Park Service that I know various leaders throughout the agencies have tried to address, but we really haven't been able to make much headway on that. When I was in the Tetons, I was living paycheck to paycheck. So like the financial stressors were a lot for me. And I know a lot of other folks are in that same situation. You know, housing is a big problem in a lot of parks, either lack of adequate staff housing or poor quality housing. I could tell you horror stories about rodent infestations and, you know, just really like unlivable conditions in a lot of parks. Up until the beginning of this year, unions were pretty sparse throughout the National Park Service and just lands management agencies more generally. Things really began to shift when the administration changed at the beginning of this year.
Growing concerns at national parks after roughly 1,000 federal park employees were laid off.
That's about 10% of its workforce. About 1,000 or 5% of National Park Service employees have also been let go.
The initial wave of the illegal firings of probationary employees, I think, were a real wake-up call to a lot of us who have always just assumed that our federal position was safe and secure. The last that I've heard, we're close to 100 different parks trying to unionize right now.
People have been constantly living under a tremendous amount of fear of being fired.
A Yosemite Park ranger has been fired, apparently for hanging a trans flag from El Capitan.
This termination is incredibly unprecedented. People hang flags all the time in the park. Hanging flags when you go up El Cap is kind of a long-standing tradition with climbers, both climbers who are employees and climbers who are not employees. It's a freedom of expression. The past 2 years, there have been 2 other large flags that were hung. There was an upside-down American flag, and there was a Stop the Genocide flag that were hung. I planned it in my free time, and I hung it in my free time, all as a private citizen. I care about this community so much. I just want to make people feel safe.
Why do you think that the other 2 employees that helped you were fired or disciplined?
The other 2 employees that participated in hanging the flag aren't fired because they're permanent employees, so they're under investigatory admin leave. Permanent employees, they have more rights, even though I have been working in the same position for 4.5 years. I just don't count.
In the Park Service, we count ourselves lucky if we get a career seasonal job that's subject to furlough, because that's the first bit of actual job security that any park worker ever gets. My park typically has 150 or so staff. We are down about 100 right now, so there's just no wildlife biologist that's in uniform working at the park. Fundamentally, the Park Service doesn't have the staff needed to protect these places. There's been huge challenges for the national parks with climate change and wildfire in particular.
Being only early August at this point, still pretty early into fire season, you know, we're running into issues where we don't even necessarily have adequate numbers of people to work fires.
Yosemite is my everything. This job is my entire identity. My identity is here. I don't have anything lined up. I don't want to go to another park. This is my home.
The thought that we might one day wake up and get an email that says, hey, we've decided your job is no longer important and we don't need you, goodbye. In that case, I would not only be suddenly unemployed, but I would also lose my health insurance and my housing, and there are tons of other people in that position.
One thing that should be maybe known about people in national parks is we live in rural places, and so we form extremely tight-knit communities because we don't have a lot of resources that are available to us. You know, I play a valuable role in this community, just as they play a valuable role to me. We're intricately entwined with one another.
A Park Service union is a voice for park rangers and for park workers and for the biologists and the bathroom cleaners and the office workers and everybody that makes these parks function and whole and makes these parks beautiful.
A union would have helped me because I would have had a union rep with me from the get-go, all the way from the first meeting with investigator through to when I was terminated. I would have also had more rights as a union employee. I think that this will potentially invigorate our community to unionize more because we want more protection, because we can just be eliminated at the drop of a hat.
I absolutely consider myself a public servant, and I consider all of my coworkers to be public servants as well. That's what drew so many of us into this work in particular. You know, I always say that the people I know here at the National Park Service are some of the most intelligent, most skilled, most interesting people I have ever met in my life. And, you know, while they could take those skills and go work for some major corporation and just rake in tons of money, we've made a choice that we care about these places and we care about the American people and protecting these places for all of humanity to be able to experience for generations into the future.
We can't lose nature. We can't lose our history. We can't lose the things that make us people.